Pump it up, pump it up. Trae. Come on, come on. Pump it up, pump it up. It's the day with This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I want to welcome you to a magnificent Monday. And of course, it is Menopause Monday. We have our Menopause Mentor, Danyale Thomas, in the building. So excited that we get to hear from her about how you deal with some relationships during menopause. So I'm glad we're here to talk about that. And then later on in the show, we got Jeneva Marie in the building as well. We're going to be talking about her book signing and the event that she has coming up. She's always doing some phenomenal things. So I'm really excited to have her here as well. But of course, as you know, it is the top of the show. So it's a perfect time for you to participate with us. Go ahead and tag and share this stream with folks who you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on the Day with Trae. And if you can't watch our show, you can still listen to us because we are on everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. You'll find us wherever you love to listen to phenomenal shows like ours. Well, up next, we got Danyale Thomas, our Menopause Mentor, back in the building, or, technically on the show with me. Welcome, Danyale. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. Good to see you, Trae. Good to be here.
Good to see you. Yeah. Well, it's always good because, we realize there's so much to dive into when we're talking about menopause. So I love that we're going to be specific around relationships because we all know, and we've heard from you, that the hormone imbalance changes. So clearly there needs to be some adjustments in other areas of our lives. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, relationships take on a big aspect of menopause because women are also going through all the hormonal changes. There's mood changes, right? There's the ups and downs. A lot of them go through depression. And then the feeling of being isolated and alone as these changes are occurring. So taking into account and having some forethought about how to retain and maintain relationships and even how to cultivate relationships is important at this time.
I mean, there's something to be said too about, I was listening to a married couple and the husband was saying, hey, my husband, when my wife started getting hot, I had to make some adjustments. I just, hey, babe, what you need? I'm going to be here for you. And he was talking about how he had to adjust in the ways that he approached his wife as she was going through this. So it's interesting because it's not just something that's impacting the women who are dealing with menopause, but everyone around them. How else have you seen this manifest?
Yeah, Trae, when women have partnerships and they're good partnerships with men or women, someone in their household, someone who holds space for them, who can be understanding about what's going on, as well as open to having dialogue and conversations, doing research, and doing whatever they need to do to kind of help them through this. There is also andropause, which is men going through menopause, and we'll talk a little bit about that at a later date. What I want to focus on is women going through these changes and how they need to address cultivating relationships, how they need to address how they show up in relationship, like not even being able to really always know how they're going to react in situations, but knowing that it's not always what's going on in the relationship, but what's going on inside of them that is causing sometimes turmoil, is causing them to not only hot flash, but flash in their attitude. So it comes a time where you have to be more ready to have conversations, be more vocal in the times that you are feeling calm, to say to your partner, you know what, I don't always know how to respond. I don't always know how I'm going to react. And having someone that you can work with and work through on this. But not all women have that, right? So statistically, divorce rate is elevated between the ages of 40 and 60. And most divorces are they come because the woman wants a divorce. And so coming into singlehood at this time can be really hard because it's even more isolating, right? And they're even more alone. And then from a financial perspective, we don't take into account that women being in this age range, having to live alone, then they don't have the benefits of a two-person household and having two incomes and being able to share expenses. So I want to just bring this up as a topic with women so that you can have better thought processes around how to manage this time in our lives if you are single and if you have a partner and you want to hang on to that relationship.
This is really interesting. I think it's not explored enough. That's why I really appreciate mainstreaming menopause, because you're hitting on areas that everyone is going through, and yet they haven't really had the space to discuss this in, kind of that safe space and learn best practices from others and how to really navigate this time. But I also think too that there's something really unique, and it's kind of uniquely defined in this era of a woman's life, but also, as you said, those around her, around all of the different symptoms that she's dealing with and how that shows up, I think, too, in relationship, which is so important and key. And, as a daughter of a mother who's gone through menopause, it's interesting because all we hear is the hot flash, right? And sometimes you don't realize how that manifests in other characteristics, right, of their lives. And so this is a really good topic here, Danielle, because once again, you're hitting on something that's not explored enough. Well, we're also dealing with the fact that you just said it there, divorce rate kind of increasing during this time, realizing that a partner who has been a certain way begins to go through some real specific changes during this time of her life. And it means that there's some wiggle room here. You need folks to be able to grow with you. What kind of things do you think are in tips in terms of, some of the younger couples who do want to grow together to be anticipating during this time?
I think what's most important is to realize that changes are going to happen throughout your life. Who you are changes along the way, and being able to cultivate a partnership where you can be all of who you are at every time, and radical acceptance, right? And really getting into a space in younger years and understanding the things that you will be challenged with as you age, right? So knowing that you want to remain married to a woman who is transitioning into menopause will take their partner being more educated, right? Finding out what's going to happen, because women can't always, because it's a hormonal change, they can't always gauge how they're going to be at different times, right? But then as a partner, if you know what's probably showing up, then you can be more compassionate, as well as in the times when things are calm, if they're elevated, right? If they get elevated, but when they're calm, where you can have the type of conversations where, you can better address what's the possibility of showing up. Another thing is joining groups, having conversations where you can having relationships where you can have conversations with other women so that you know what they're dealing with, so you don't feel all alone, right? Sometimes what happens during this time when there is a mood change, right? Sometimes we tend to lash out and take it out on other people around us. Women at this age range have a hard time maintaining positions, right? Staying in the same job because of all the changes that are going on. So I feel like being supported, right? So being like in a group like Mainstream in Menopause, where you're able to like have dialogues with other women, have meetups, right? Understanding that you're not alone, but also how to address all the things that show up. And then something that's been kind of coming up for me lately, Trae, is I'm remembering the Golden Girls. And I remember back in the day watching it. It was a cute sitcom. It was funny, but I didn't really understand why three older women and a mom would all be living together at the same time. Mind blown. Now that I'm looking back, I totally get it. They were living together because of financial, right? They were living together for being have companionship, but also because at that time they hadn't had relationships with a partner where they can share all of these things, that communal living was necessary.
It's so interesting to mention that because someone was just talking about the Golden Girls like earlier, late last week. And the same kind of understanding was coming to light. I think as we're looking at the rising cost of housing, I mean, so many different things where you go, there's some ways to have untraditional kind of living arrangements where, families are coming together. Like, let's get a bigger house, but we can do it if we have multiple families in the house. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these kinds of arrangements happen, but they're working, right? So I really love that node to it. Also, too, I mean, you mentioned singledom, and that is something in terms of, how you deal with your own changes during this time of menopause when you don't have that partner, right? A life partner to kind of go through some of these things with. So again, groups like Mainstreaming Menopause make so much sense. Of course, if folks are trying to tap in, Danielle, and they need this group, let them know how they plug in.
So you can find us on Facebook at Mainstream in Menopause, listed in all the groups, and go ahead and click to join. You can also email me directly if you need help, guidance, or just somebody to tell what's really going on with you. You can always email me at mainstreamingmenopause@gmail.com.
Oh, Danielle, always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for keeping this topic uplifted for us all. Appreciate you. Until next time, my friend.
Until next time.
Wow. Always a great node to dive into this topic, y'all, because as you can see, it impacts so much more than just the women who are going through that change in their lives. It is something that is affecting other relationships that they have and the people that are in their lives. So please tap in, or if you know someone who needs that resource, please share it with them. Well, up next, we got Jeneva Marie in the building after this short break, y'all. And I said book signing, but Geneva's here to talk about a whole series of wellness that you can also tap in. It is essentially another group where she is using all of her expertise in trauma-informed storytelling to bring to light some opportunities for you to deal with collective grief. Really excited to have her join us right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Let's start the show.
Hello, welcome to Elite Insights with Carlos Imani. We're looking to offer an in-depth look at event production industry through the lens of client experiences and joint successes. The podcast will emphasize guest interviews, focusing on client discussing their fields and reflecting on their collaboration with Elite Collective. Again, you're with Elite Insights. Carlos Imani here. See you guys in a few.
Big Tobacco thinks they know everything. They think they know you, your community, the places you go, the way that you spend your time. They think they got you all figured out, down to a formula, a calculation based off of numbers of what they think they know. Show them they're wrong. Learn more at theythinktheyknowyou.org.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Jeneva Marie in the building. What's up, Jeneva?
Hey.
Good to see you again.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Trae.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we got to dive into this collective grief, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think a lot of people think of grief as a singular thing, an individual thing. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so there's a 7-part series, and it's called Moving Through Collective Grief. And we have each part that's connected to something. So we did Grief is to be Shared in Community is part 1. Part 2 was Grief in Individual Care. Part 3 was Grief, Rage, and Storytelling. Part 4 is the one that's on next Sunday, which is Grief, Intergenerational Trauma, and Ancestral Wisdom. And the next one after that is Grief, Shame, and Money. The one after that is Grief, Action, and Liberation and Justice. And the last one is the Celebration of Grief nature, storytelling, and healing.
Wow. I mean, how do you derive at these topics, these nodes?
Yeah, so I am going through my own grief journey right now. I lost my grandmother in April, and she was going through breast cancer. And so just going through that journey with her for about 2 years, I was heavy in grief. And when she passed, I was like, I just don't know what to do. I was like growing in debt. I was having a hard time, and I wanted to like isolate myself. And people start pouring in. People start showing up. People were sending me Uber gift cards to like Geneva, just in case you don't eat. And I didn't know they even knew me in that way and could hold space in that way. And so I just started journaling more. I started getting deep into my meditation practices. And like 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I started journaling because my mind was just overwhelmed with so much ideas. And moving through collective grief came on the paper. And I was like, okay. And so I went back to sleep and I woke up the next day and I had a co-working session with the person who held the first event with me named EK. And so I told them, I was like, yeah, I have this idea that I think I should make it a series. And they was like, you should. And I was like, really? And they was like, you should. And I was like, okay, let's take a break. And so then I went on a walk. And then the downloads just start happening. And the 7 parts just start coming to me. And I was like, wow. And then after I sat with it, I was like, I'm about to start asking my community who wants to be a part of it. And people start saying yes. I have about 12 co-facilitators holding this space with me because grief is not just my experience, it's so many other people's experience. And I want other people to lean in and just learn grief and hold grief and be with grief, because as we be with grief, we can heal, not only heal for ourselves, but heal for the past generations now, and the generations after us.
That's so interesting because, you know, when you think about grief, I mean, the idea of grief counseling as a young person, I just didn't know anything like that existed. And so you go on these journeys where, you know, I realized for me, so much of it had to be around my response. You know, how do I have a response to grief that still allows me to be healthy and to maintain my sentiments and essentially to keep going? Because a lot of times folks understand grief as a stopping point, like, oh, I need to just like stop and just deal with it. But the reality is that it's both and I realized it later down the line. How are you, you know, receiving people that are coming to these sessions? Like, how is it working for them? What are they walking away with essentially?
Yeah, so I had someone come and she left, and she's a Black woman, and she was like, this has been so healing for somebody like me. And to hear that from a Black woman is just so healing for myself, because I believe that we're mirror reflections. And I believe that we travel through grief every single day. It is not only when you lose a family member, it can be losing versions of yourself, not getting the job that you want. It can be just things that you thought where you're supposed to be, or you thought you were supposed to be, but you're not there. Grief shows up every single day in so many different ways. And once we build an intimate relationship with grief and understand that there's no running from it. When I first really sat with grief, I realized I was running from it for a long time, from traveling around the world, just doing all this thing to escape it, but it was always finding me. And I was so depressed, but I was performative. And so that's when I started drinking a lot, because I had to show up and be performative. Until I stopped drinking, I was like, wow, I can hold this. How do I hold this? Journal with it, meditate with it, slow down, sit with it. Ask grief, what's up? What you trying to tell me, right? And so I want other people to leave with that. I want people to leave with an intimate relationship with grief, because especially being Black in a Black body, we are holding historic grief. And that's why I'm really excited about this next one, which is intergenerational trauma and ancestral wisdom, because the grief that we're holding is generational. And as we untangle and really sit with that grief, we can reclaim our wholeness, we can reclaim that we are enough, and we can move collectively. Understanding our relationship with grief helps us be more in love with each other. And that's what I want people to leave with, to be in love.
Yeah, this is so powerful. You know, I'm getting into audiobooks lately, and I just finished a book called The Man Not, and it was so deep and academically written, but it was also very telling of the reasons why societally Black men are viewed in a very specific way, or essentially not really viewed at all, right? It's like this idea of that. And I finished that book, and with two young, well, now my oldest is 18, but still two Black men I'm essentially raising, the understanding that so much is passed down throughout our DNA. And when you relearn the truth of history, there's some things that come up again. So I really love that you were able to pare this down into this 7-part series, and that you are taking some time to focus on the intergenerationality of it, because there's so much truth to that, and how we respond and receive and program our responses accordingly to it. As you said, get intimate with it, right? Really allows us to move through it in a way that allows us to always recognize it. Like you said, it be with us, right? Look at the world we're in today. We still never got, anti-lynching laws, let alone reparations for all of that time. But it's beautiful because we're being innovative, and you've created something as an innovative approach to deal with it. So thank you for not holding that just for yourself, but for opening it up for others. Of course, if folks are trying to tap into this series and follow you and all the work that you're doing, look right there, let them know how they plug in.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Jeneva Marie B. And I have it all through the link in bio, my Eventbrite of all 7 parts. After we finish with the 7 parts, you can catch the replays of the other parts because we're in part 4 right now. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Geneva, great work. And thank you so much for tapping in with me today and letting the folks know here. It's always a pleasure. Anytime you got anything going on, just stop on by the day.
Listen, next time it's the book, okay?
Yeah. I'm helping to manifest it, right?
Thank you. I'm taking. I'm receiving.
Oh, y'all, what a beautiful way to show how we can create solutions around our reality. It's always a blessing to hear from some innovators in our community who are making things happen. And y'all know, after this break, I'm gonna talk all about the inspiration of that. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
You on my mind a lot, don't need no time, watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You seem like the barging down, got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch, might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we gon' make a child. Then we gon' hit the show. Part 2, we don't need no pause. You miss you, we gon' get tipsy, don't need a power spot.
Copy my steel, face the fact that. Copy my steel, face the fact that.
Disenrollment is a situation whereby people whose birthright to be indigenous is being stolen from them by politicians that have been elected to lead.
Today, the latest or last chapter of the saga concerns the threatened physical ejectment of as many as 21 Nooksack families from their homes.
I think it come about by hatred for our family. That's what it's all about.
Our bloodline is still here. They can't get rid of us.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Now, this is exactly what I'm talking about here when we think about all of the ways that we stay innovative and resilient to share our brilliance with others. You know, I was inspired by both of my guests today. Huge shout out to Danyale Thomas, our Menopause Mentor, and of course, Jeneva Marie, for being here to shed some light on how she is bringing about this series for collective grief due to her own experiences, right? But the beauty is that we have folks that are doing it. Danyelle, same thing. She realized, like, I'm going through these things. There's probably other people going through this and don't know where to turn. She created Mainstreaming Menopause, right? Geneva's like, yo, I'm dealing with something. How do I deal with this? And out of her brilliance comes this amazing 7-part series around collective grief. Now, I'm just telling you, these are 2 examples of brilliance in our community, y'all. Just 2. You too can be a part of that when you bring your brilliance out to community and allow others to be inspired by not just your own divine downloads, but your lived experience and how you usher that in to bring in solutions for others. So be inspired, y'all, because you too can be a part of the solution. And for me, until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.